Hiya, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Today I am sharing a video of how to create the Christmas pop-up card die set from KSCRAFTLOVERS store on Aliexpress. So first of all, these are the dies that come in your package. So we have this window die here and it has those scored lines so the window's open. Then you have the words Merry Christmas and a shadow die, which you can separate those so it cuts the words in the outline. Then we have this die here, which you need to pop the Christmas tree out of the middle and take off those little metal bits. You can just snap them off with your fingers because they will leave marks on your card if you leave them there. And that one creates the layers. And then this one here is the main die. Now you need to pop out all of these parts that are in the middle. I have left the frame in there for now, but you actually need to take that out as well. So this was just a quick look to begin with, and you'll see how to use everything throughout this video. I have a piece of cardstock here, which is 10 inches by 5, and then a card base. I will come back to the card base in a little bit. For the minute, you just need a flat piece of cardstock that has not been scored, and I'm using a 10 by 5 inch piece of 110 pound Nina Solar White. Now I am marking it at the 5 inch score, which is where I would score it if I were to make a folding card out of this. And then you have this main die here, and those two little pieces out the side need to match up where you would have done a score line for the card. So for me, that's at the 5 inch mark. And then once I've run it through my die cutting machine, you will kind of start to see the card coming together. Now it does emboss all of those lines for you that are scored, and it's relatively intuitive as to where you're going to, which way you're going to fold them, obviously. And so I just kind of gently folded everything and then flattened it out, and you can see the card starting to take shape now. So this is kind of the main part of the pop-up card. And I mean, I was figuring this out as I went as well, because when I looked on YouTube to try and find what other people had done, I could not find, there may well be one, but I could definitely not find any tutorials on how to do this card. So here I am, and I thought I would do one for you guys. So now I have this middle piece here that was originally inside of the die that we took out, that we bent out before we started. And this creates a kind of perfect window for you to be able to see through to the back of your pop-up. So I put my card flat to run it back through my die cutting machine, and now I'm going to fold it up again, and you can see where the window is going to be for everything to go in the middle. Now here is the part that creates the windows. So it has two kind of flaps that you fold over, top and bottom, and then the rest of it is the frame that you will see. And this die has one kind of cool feature. So here on the main part, you can see these 4 wee dots that are on the main die. Now that puts a really tiny little dent onto your card, and that lets you know exactly where to line up these layer pieces, the window pieces in your pop-up card. Now, although the lines did score, I sometimes run them through my scoring board just so that I can make the scores really nice and clean. You don't have to do that at all. That's just what I was choosing to do, and I didn't do it for all of them. So now you can see that they fit inside here, and one flap will stick to the top and one flap will stick to your card base. Now the next part is definitely optional as well. I have taken a sheet of acetate, and I am going to fill these windows with the acetate. You do not have to do this, and you can kind of just glue whatever you're putting in your scene to the bottom of the frame. However, I found that this would give it lots more stability, and I could kind of pop the images up a little bit further so that they didn't get lost sort of down towards the bottom. So as I said, this is optional, and I'm actually putting tape all around the outside of the frame, and then I'm now putting tape on the flaps as well. So this is just some really good double-sided tape from Alina's craft store on Aliexpress, and she has lots of different widths, so it's a fantastic, nice, strong tape to use. So I've taken off the release paper, and this is kind of the back of the window. And then you can see when I turn it over, there are the flaps that are still have the release paper on, and I won't take those off quite yet because I'm going to take them off when I actually put them in. So there's my two kind of layer parts done. And now I'm going to move on to the Christmas die. This is the one that came with the set, and I have die cut it out of some light green cardstock, but I do want to kind of jazz it up just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually using the outside of the die cut, and I'm just going to use that to give some texture to this tree. So kind of make it a little more interesting than just the flat green. And there's lots of different ways you can do this, but it was just nice and easy because I had that the outside part handy. Now the ink pad that I'm using is an Ombre ink pad from Aliexpress as well, and I have had these ones for a couple of years and I've never ever needed to re-ink them, so I'm really enjoying them at the moment, and I'm just using a finger dauber to put it on. I do want the trunk of the tree to be brown though, so I've got some Hero Arts Cup of Joe, just any brown ink will work, it doesn't matter, and popped it on. Now, because I don't want things to be two-dimensional, I'm adding on these tiny wee adhesive-backed gems, and you could definitely use Nuvo drops or anything that you have in your stash, but I needed something that was already dry. I didn't have time to wait for the Nuvo drops to dry, and you need something that is not two-dimensional because obviously the card needs to fold flat still. So you're kind of a little bit limited, but you just get creative. And then I have my favorite little penguin, and I'm sorry that I'm off screen here. I zoomed in to show you the Christmas tree and forgot that I was zoomed in and kind of was just on my merry way thinking about my card making. So I cut one out in black and one out in white cardstock, and then I am just cutting out the parts that I need, and it's really easy because the die kind of has those lines already semi-cut for you. So this is just paper piecing. I'm just paper piecing the penguin. But I mean, if you didn't want to do this, you could definitely just use some markers or something to colour him in the different parts. As I said, it's made easy by the lines of the die. So all you need to do is follow those and you'll be away laughing. I'm putting a little bit of double-sided tape on the back of his nose and eyes because I need to pop the wee bit in for his nose, which I'm going to colour orange. So I'm just using the little tiny white piece that I kept for his nose. And then I also want his little feet to be orange as well, so I am just going to mask them off with a tiny wee piece of low-tack tape and just ink them up with the same orange that I used for his nose. And then last but not least, I'm going to put in his two tiny little eyes. And then last but not least, for his hat, I am actually going to die cut it out twice. I'm going to die cut it out in sort of a light blue and a dark blue color, and as I said, it's easy to paper piece because of the way that the die cuts. So I'm just going to stick one layer on there, and then I am cutting out the bottom part of his hat, and I will make that dark blue. And then I would have loved to have put a wee pom-pom on his hat, however, as I said, you need to keep this pretty flat, so I just used the same dark blue one. The last time I used this little penguin, a couple of videos ago, I was able to put a little white pom-pom on, and I loved that, but never mind, flat he is today. So that's my little penguin done and my Christmas tree done, and these are kind of the main elements to my card. Now, don't get me wrong, you could go all out and create a massive, beautiful, gorgeous scene. That wasn't really my goal with this card, but I do love how this card turned out. So I did cut a wee snowbank there out of some white glitter cardstock just to kind of ground the penguin a little more, but then I actually ended up just cutting it down a little bit and making the snowbank slightly smaller so that it doesn't quite, it looked a bit funny with the tree in the background. So I have put double-sided tape on the back of all of my little elements, and so I've got my snowbank and then my little penguin, and as I said, I'm setting them up a little bit because I have the acetate there, so I'm able to put them where I want to, but I did realize that the tree is going to be too big, so I end up doing a little bit of tree surgery here because I didn't want to lose the stump at the bottom. I thought that looked kind of weird, and I didn't want to kind of chop off the top. So yeah, I end up kind of cutting off a little bit of the bottom of the tree, just with scissors, nothing special. And then I am going to actually cut the little stump off and add it onto the back of that little tree. And that way I can see my whole little tree through the window. So there we are, I've kind of got the middle part sorted, and now I'm going to attach them into my card. So I'm going to take off just the top part, not the bottom piece of release paper just yet. So the top one, and they kind of slide in there nicely. I'm really sorry how hard it is for you to kind of see some aspects of this card. Obviously I need to see what I'm doing, and you're looking down from the camera, whereas I am looking, face on. So I'm sorry that it's a little bit tricky for you to see some aspects of it. But there you go, I just popped the second one in as well, and now I have my two little layers inside the card. So I'm kind of showing you what it looks like at the moment. Then I have my card base, and I started off with a 10-inch long piece of paper, which has kind of been scored at 5 in the middle, and then my card base itself is 11 inches by 5, so that when I fold it, it ends up being 5.5 by 5 inches. So I just use some liquid glue to adhere down the bottom, and then I'm going to take the release paper off of the two layers. So I'm doing one layer first, and as I said, it creates marks so it's all nice and easy. And then with the second layer, you want to kind of lay your card flat and then press the adhesive down. And then it's just a matter of adding a little bit of glue to the back of it and folding the card flat. I used my liquid glue is the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish, and that's in the little glue bottles that I get from Ali as well. And anyway, so the card is starting to take shape. I actually have this Christmas paper pad here. This was one from Aliexpress, and I have cut a little bit to fit the top part there of the inside of my card. So again, I'm just using a little bit of liquid glue to adhere it down, and that gives me a second to wiggle it around and get it in the right place. Now, pretty much from here on out, you can decorate however you want. It is completely up to you. You could leave it mostly white. You could, ink it up. You can add pattern papers. The world is kind of your oyster. So this is just what I chose to do. And as I said, this is kind of a simple version. You could definitely step this card up and make it crazy beautiful too. So I'm just showing you here that I use those outside two pieces to create the frame to go around my little window. And again, just liquid glue so that I had the moment or two to wiggle it around. And I'm going to leave the inside bottom part of the card blank, so that's where I will write my message when I give this card to someone. So here's another piece of paper from that same paper pack I showed you before, and I'm going to cut it down to size, so it'll be 5 inches by 5.5 inches, and that works out good because this is a 6 by 6 inch paper pad. But I felt like it needed just a little bit something extra, so I have some glitter cardstock here, and I'm cutting out the same size. But for a couple of reasons, I'm going to cut out the inside of the panel. One is that it's a waste of all that beautiful glitter cardstock, but mainly the reason is that it reduces the bulk of the card, because already it is kind of a thicker card because of all the folding elements inside. So that works out well if I take out some of the bulk from the red glitter cardstock. And then I just cut down my front panel to match so that it each has a border. And I have some gold cardstock here. It's kind of like a champagne-y gold color, and a little alphabet die set, which is from Ali as well. And I have cut out the words to say, have a very, which will make sense in a minute, don't worry. I'm using my tea ruler. This is what I sometimes do to line things up, is I just put a piece of tape there to hold my tea ruler in place. And I'm just using the same liquid glue to adhere down these letters flat onto the front. And I guess I didn't make the front of the card too extravagant because I feel like the inside of the card is kind of the star of the show. So as I said, this card is kind of the basic, clean and simple version, and you could go extravagant, extraordinary if that's kind of your style and you have time and things. So this is definitely a card where you can add as much or as little as you want to. So anyway, I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue around the outside and adhere that down onto the glitter cardstock, and then a little more glue to add to the top of the card. And I'm just going to hold that down for a second. And then the last couple of details here, I have this Merry Christmas die. Remember, this one came with it, and I have cut the shadow out in some vellum, and I cut the words out of the same cardstock that I used for the words on the front of the card. So it says Merry Christmas, obviously, and it comes apart in a couple of pieces with the scripty writing. So the M is separate from the rest of the Merry word, and the Christmas is roughly split in half. Again, you could layer this up, or you could give it a drop shadow. There's so many awesome things that you could do, and this is just what I'm choosing to do for my card. So I did just want to say, even though there are a few parts to this card, it's not hard to put together. I really enjoy doing this because I don't do too many pop-up cards. So yeah, I really did enjoy this process, and I didn't find it hard at all. It was just a matter of a few extra steps than what I otherwise might do for a normal card. So I'm going to pop this on the inside of the card, up the top, and as I said, I would write my message down in front of the penguin and the windows and things. But yeah, to finish off the card, I am adding a few Nuvo drops, and that is that. Thank you so much for watching me if you made it this far. I really appreciate it. Check out these dies. They are ultra fun to create this Christmas pop-up card. See you in the next video. Bye!